Alright guys, so my last video got cut off. Can't go back to the same train of thought, so I'm not even gonna try to finish off the video like that. What I'm gonna do is go through a little bit of a recap, and then I'm gonna get into a little more what 7-8 was talking about, 7-8 Sports TV. If you're not subscribed, go subscribe, blah blah blah. But I'm gonna get into a little bit more about what he was talking about, and then I might add a couple things, but here we go. Basically, a lot of people are complaining about the weight, and they think it's David Goliath. It's a welterweight versus a middleweight. Technically, that is true. However, like I said, there's a large group of people that still don't realize that these guys are cutting weight, and they think that it's a 147-pound guy against a 160-pound guy. In truth, it's a guy who's been fighting coming into the ring at 170, Kell Brook, and another guy that's been coming into the ring at 170, which is Gennady Golovkin. Okay, he's obviously, Kell Brook is going through a lot to try to squeeze into these divisions. Not only does he have to dehydrate himself, but he has to cut his calories way down just to get to that 170. Okay, so basically what I'm trying to say is people are kind of blowing this whole weight thing way out of proportion, and they're automatically taking credit away from a Gennady Golovkin win if he does win. But basically these guys are the same size. Now, here's the thing. Now let's get into what the people in the know are talking about. The people that, they understand that these guys cut weight. Kell Brook is, nowhere near 147 pounds. He's much closer to Golovkin. Even at welterweight, when he was cutting down to get to welterweight, he's still only, 2 pounds at most away from Gennady Golovkin. But what people are worried about is this extra weight that he's putting on, okay? And this is exactly what 7-8 Sports TV was talking about. He was saying basically that just because you see Kell Brook 176 at the 30-day weigh-in doesn't mean that he is naturally bigger than Golovkin. That's absolutely true, okay? On the other hand, it doesn't mean that he's smaller than Golovkin either, okay? And his point is that when people, when people try to gain extra weight, it never does anything good for them in a sport like boxing. Of course, if you're a power lifter or some shit like that, you're going to gain muscle just because you're lifting heavy and you're eating as much as possible. In sports like that, you don't have to worry about agility and speed, basically. And basically he's saying that if Kell Brook is gaining weight, he thinks that he's gaining weight in a way that is going to hurt him. It's going to slow him down because he's, lifting extra heavy and overeating. Like I said in my last video, I don't think that's true at all. I think that Kell Brook, like I said, he was starving himself just to get down to his in-ring weight, right? And basically it's more like freeing up. It's basically this weight that he's gaining is kind of like just weight that's being freed up, or weight that he gained in between fights anyway, and it's just natural to him. The reason why most people don't benefit from gaining weight, gaining extra muscle on top of, their genetic predisposition, two things. A, because they just have more weight on them, right? Which, like I said, that's gonna hurt you if your body is not, if it's not natural to you, right? He was saying how he couldn't explain it to most people, how, Kell Brook gaining this weight doesn't mean that he's naturally bigger. And that's what it's all about. It's all about their genetics, basically. So he doesn't think that Kell Brook is a heavier guy than Golovkin naturally. As I said before, I disagree. I think, just because he's shorter or whatever, it doesn't mean that he's not a naturally bigger guy. Some guys are more muscular than others, right? Timothy Bradley is a guy that comes to mind that probably has to do the same thing Kell Brook is doing You know, when he's at 140, I'd say for sure he was doing this same thing. But, you know, just because Kell Brook is shorter doesn't mean that he's not naturally just as big as Gennady Golovkin. Okay, so I think instead of Kell Brook actually trying to put on extra muscle, it's just that now that he's able to eat normally, now that he's not starving himself, his natural muscle that he's supposed to have anyway is just going to come back to him, and it's not going to slow him down. It's not going to make him, sluggish or anything like that. I think that the weight that Kell Brook put on is natural. Not to mention, if you guys see the pictures, this guy is still ripped. Okay, it's not like he got fat like Amir Khan did. None of that happened, man. I think Kell Brook is going to be in tip-top shape. And I'm not putting out my prediction right now. I'll tell you guys right away that I am picking Gennady Golovkin to win, regardless of all of this. But I believe that this fight is not going to come down to weight. I mean, even like I said, even at welterweight, it's still, when Kell Brook was cutting down to welterweight, he is still around 170 pounds. He's just going to be cutting less now, and he's definitely going to be a couple pounds heavier, just because, like I said, it's almost like weight that is freed up, not weight that he's adding, just weight that he's able to keep on, if that makes sense. So in my opinion, man, I think people are blowing this way out of proportion. If Gennady Golovkin beats Kell Brook, it's not the weight that was the problem. It's the fact that Gennady Golovkin is a better fighter. And to me, that's all there is to it, man. Not to mention, if you just want to look at a couple other things that make this fight a little more fair, in my opinion, it's going to be on Kell Brook's turf. He's going to have the judges. He's going to have the ref. He's going to have the crowd. I mean, I believe that it's to the point where if this fight goes to a decision, Kell Brook is going to get it, regardless of, how much he gets beat up or what. I think if it goes 12 rounds, Kell Brook is going to get this fight. But I don't know, man. Let me know what you guys think. And yeah, man, don't come in here and start saying all this shit like, oh, but Gennady Golovkin fights at middleweight. Kell Brook is a welterweight. Gennady Golovkin is just bigger. If you haven't watched my last video, I explained how that's not really the case, man. What these weight classes are doing to people who don't know about weight or weight cutting is just confusing them, man. There's a lot of fighters that are 2 divisions apart, but they're the same size. Rigondeaux and Chocolatito. The same way that a lot of people will say, how can you rate Chocolatito higher than Guillermo Rigondeaux if they're the same weight, and Rigo has fought a better name and he fights at a higher weight class. Well, it's kind of like the same thing here, man. Kell Brook and Gennady Golovkin, yeah, Golovkin is an inch taller or whatever, but they are functionally the same size. So, I don't know. To me, if Kell Brook loses this fight, Gennady Golovkin is just a more skilled fighter. And I think that's all there is to it. But once again, let me know what you guys think, and I'm on to the next one.